Couple days have passed since the release of the new Idol Meat, so it's time we can finally talk about the final verdict where she's on the tier list, how to properly build her, a few changes from our first impressions in terms of skills and gear, and also on what teams you can slot her in, where she's gonna be working the best. As usual, before we start, hello degenerates, welcome back to the Waifus. I'm Sefhi, your favorite gambling addict. Today's topic, Meat, the new Idol. If you are curious about the tier list, which by the way, there's been a lot of changes on the tier list, we'll make a separate video going over it. Today we're just focusing on Meat. Meat is starting at the T2, a good place, a good buffer, a fantastic character that can be used anywhere, but you're gonna be benefiting the most on one-shot teams or characters that, you know, like Snow White heavy arms, teams that can really benefit from all of the buffs she has to provide. But she works as a standalone B2, no problem. That said, let's jump directly into her page. We're going to be talking about skills, we're going to be talking about how to properly build her, and a few extra things to take into consideration with Meat. For those of you who don't remember of the previous video, not much changes, honestly. It's mostly a couple of the recommendations. We're gonna start with the skills and then we'll go into everything else. So for the skills, honestly, I would recommend a 777. You don't really care about going too much into her unless you are gonna be using her on solo raids and union raids as one of your main buffers. Then I would go 7-10-10 on skill 2 and on burst. And the reason why skill 2 and burst is because skill 1, it's a nice increase. We're talking from a 38% attack to a 45%. It's nice. But the heals themselves don't increase as much, like a 0.3% for the heals. We don't really care about this. It's nice, but it's expensive. Skill 2, however, is where we get the critical rate. And the critical rate is what's going to be giving you at level 17, at level 10 and 19.94. Now, this 19 makes it so when she's paired with Sui, with her treasure, right? With Sweet Treasure, you're gonna be getting almost a 100% crit rate, basically. It's a little bit less, 98, I think someone told me 98 point something. But again, it's basically 100%, right? Like, we're talking about whatever characters you are going to be fishing for crits, you want to be running these two girls together because you are just going to be saving so much time retrying instead of having to, you know, fish for hours. So that's why we will be taking a skill 2 to level 10 if you care about those teams for the crit rate. Obviously, everything else is also pretty good, but it's not as big of an increase. And then her burst, same thing. We're going from a 25 attack damage and the 38% crit damage all the way to a 45 and 30, which is not huge. Okay, we're talking about the 5% here, like a 7% on the critical damage, but it does benefit. Now, as you can see, she has like pretty interesting moves. We're talking about Pierce, projectile special damage, critical rate, critical damage, the max ammo, attack damage. She benefits the most either Pierce characters for this Pierce and the crit, or characters that can take advantage of the projectile explosion damage. So you want to be pairing her with either rocket launcher or sniper rifles with Pierce, or any character with Pierce. Doesn't have to be a sniper rifle. For example, File Asuka could be included there too, right? So a pretty good character. Honestly, you could even believe in like the burst at level 7. You're not going to be missing on a lot of buffs. Like I said earlier, it's like a 7% increase and a 5% increase. So if you are low on resources, I can perfectly fine see a 7-10-7. And I might change it on the website because I feel it's like mega expensive for most people to go to level 10 just for a 5% and a 7%. So let's say 7-10-7 if you're gonna be going for those one-shot teams, all right? If not, you can leave it at 7-7-7. I'll update the website later and we'll switch the burst from 7 or 10 to just 7. That's for the skills. When it comes to her gear, not a lot changes. In fact, nothing changes from our previous video. This is a character you do not really care what she gets. You can just be going for a couple max ammo charge speed lines if you want to make her life easier, but you don't care. In fact, I have added a new notice into the website, all right, this one right here, which is going to be appearing mostly on support characters. Low priority to reroll overload. And this is because most support units do not usually care about the specific lines outside the CP padding for their moves, casters attack when applicable, and increasing survivability. This will appear on like 40-50 characters on the website, mostly support units that you don't really care. Yes, you can reroll for maximum charge speed, but it's a waste of rocks. Yes, you can reroll for an elemental attack just to increase your overall damage on raids, but that's for the people who are really at the top level. So that's for the gear, that's for the skills. Not a lot changes in there from the previous video. And then also we can talk about the cube, which obviously Same as the gear, it doesn't matter. I would recommend Resilience. Most people will have Resilience and Bastion leveled up because it's a 2-second reload time and you want to be shooting every single time with full charge. So just to make sure you are not losing your buffs, Resilient is the way to go. What a surprise to nobody. When it comes to the doll, I would have a low priority on the doll. It's more stats, which is good for her. But I would just leave a phase 0 purple doll. Now, a lot of people recommend blue dolls for characters you're not going to be recommending, and I can agree. But I usually have enough selectors and dolls to just put the phase 0 SR directly for the increased stats. This depends on how many you have. If you don't have a lot of dolls, go for a blue one, it's fine. If you have a purple one, I would recommend the purple phase 0 because it's more stats for her. As for how to build her, let's go a little bit over the pros, cons, and then we can show also the other new section on the website, which is synergies and notes, this nice section we have added. When it comes to pros and cons, there is not much to say we haven't talked about already. This is a character that can be used on any team composition just because of her burst. Like, regardless of the pierce and everything else, her burst is attack damage, max ammo, crit damage. 99% of the characters in the game benefit from this, unless it's Private, Summer Doro, or characters like that, right? So, as an overall buffer, you can use her anywhere and she works fine. And even outside of those teams, she still is giving even more attack, she's giving the pierce damage, the projectile explosion damage, the critical rate, every other rotation. Really good character. She's also really cheap if you are not a competitive player, 777 on basic overload gear. And for a character that can compete with the majority of the B2 meta characters, right, it's really good. That's something that's pretty nice, honestly. And then the only con so far is that you cannot really use her as an off-burst unit, because she will lose all her kit. Like, if she's an off-burst character, she doesn't have a skill 2, she doesn't have a skill 1. And obviously, you're not bursting, so she doesn't have this either. So she loses her kit completely. It's a useless character. The other con, I don't know if we can say it's a con or not, but it's that you need to remember to always burst second with your main DPS, because she will start first with the HP recovery, and then on the second rotation is when she goes into attack, right? So that's in the notes right here. And that's just something too important to remember. For example, Snow White Heavy Arms, or normal Snow White, or Mihara, or Ain, you want to always burst second to take advantage of all of her buffs. Outside of that, like I was saying earlier, she can be used on any team, but will shine the most on crit comps with Sweet Treasure to read 98% plus crit on characters like Snow White Heavy Arms. Her skills, like we were saying earlier, a 7-10-10 is going to be more than enough. I will be updating to a 7-10-7 because I don't think it's necessary to go 10 onto the burst for a character like this. If you want to be using her everywhere, it's fine to go 7-10-10 or even 10-10-10 if it's going to be like one of your main B2s. It's completely fine. But I think for most people, it's going to be a raid character. We are at the point in Nika where we have enough units to be using on basically every piece of content, right? Like, you have enough characters for every piece of content you are running, which is great. It's just more options added. Unless it's a T0 character, something like Annie, something like Neon, the rest are usable girls, which is good. Better usable than a Snow Crane, like we always say, right? So I mean, we'll stay at the T2 for now. We'll see if it's needed to bump her down or up in the future. And also on the asset tier list, she's starting at the T0 because it's a really, really good ass. Okay, what can I say? I'm a simple man, guys. I am a simple man. When it comes to team compositions, we were talking about this already, but obviously she's gonna be paired the best with your Sweet Treasure, alright? And if you're pairing with Sweet, you will need a cooldown reduction character. It can be something like your Moran. You can be using then something like your what is Snow White? Something like your Snow White Heavy Arms, and then put it something with like Private as a buffer. Teams like this will work no problem. And this, because we're talking about Snow White, but this can also work with your Mihara for the crits. This can also work with your Ain for the crits. This can also work for all of those units, even OG Snow White, right? If not, if you don't want to be running a Sweet team at whatever cooldown reduction you have, you can still put her on any composition and she works. Like, we can still go for a full team, let's say that it's benefiting rocket launchers, right? And you're just running like Anise and Mint, and then characters that can take advantage of the projectile buff explosion. Maybe it's your Neon, maybe it's your Rappy, maybe it's your SBS because it gets buffed like crazy. Any rocket launcher that can take advantage of those projectile explosion will work here. So she's a pretty much universal buffer, only for her burst. And then you can also use her with Pierce for the snipers, with the one-shot team compositions for Mihara with the Sweet Treasure, things like that. Mihara is not one-shot, but she's still full crit, right? So you can run her on a lot of team compositions. She's a pretty versatile character. I've been having a lot of fun with her, testing teams on the Union Raid on hard mode, and also on Anomaly Interception and Solar Museum. If you guys want to see damage numbers themselves, we shared those on the previous video instead of this one. This is just the jumping final verdict video. But on this video right here, guys, you can go and check a little bit of everything on damage comparison numbers and how we're feeling about her. That said, that's basically everything for this video and for the Mint guide. A pretty nice character, really solid. Like I said on my previous video, however, it's not a limited character, while Raven, Eve, and Neon Vision Eye are limited units, or at least Neon and 1%, the other two limiteds. So it's up to you which ones you prefer to go for. I prioritize Pokédex completion myself, so I'd rather pull for the limited characters. That's it, enough jumping, enough ranting, that's everything for this one. As usual, we are live every single day. You guys have the links in the description down below. Good luck with your pool, leader rates, and I'll see you on the next one.